Hello, my name is Peter and welcome to weather briefing number 4. First, we'll start off with the national conditions. And we'll start off with the surface analysis chart. Um, Nothing too much. We've got a couple stationary front up in the northern plains and high and low pressure systems scattered around the west with some troughs with the associated low pressure systems. Next, move on to the upper level charts. Here we have the 925 millibar chart, lower charts. Wind's pretty calm all around the northwest, or the midwest, sorry. And nothing too crazy. And we'll move on to the mid-level chart, 700 millibars. Now we can start to see stronger winds in the contours forming. Winds coming from the northwest. Move on to the 300 millibar chart. And now we start to see the jet stream flowing. The jet moving stronger in the upper United States, upwards 40, 50, and even closer to 100 knots in the northeast. Move on to the radar. First, we have the infrared radar. Nothing too much in terms of clouds in North Dakota, but we've got lots of clouds around the southwest and the Rockies, the Colorado Rockies area. And now move on to the visible satellite, where once again, more of the same. Most of the clouds in the Rocky Mountain area and in Montana as well. And water vapor is next. Some water vapor with the storms in the southwest, but again, most in the Rockies and Utah, Colorado, Arizona. And now move on to the radar. Looks like we got a little bit of a squall line coming through Montana, South Dakota. Looks pretty strong, pretty high reflectivity. Other than that, just a few scattered storms around Oklahoma, Colorado, and some out in Virginia as well. Move on to the convective outlook for the day. Slight chance of severe thunderstorms in Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, and marginal chance in a large region, and then just general thunderstorms for most of the United States. And move on to the active sigmets. Nothing really affecting us in Grand Forks. Some moderate turbulence around and a couple thunderstorm sigmets as well. Move on to the GRMITs. Nothing too much concerning us in Grand Forks. There's an IFR sigmet across the west coast, as you would expect. There's some moderate turbulence in the northeast from flight level 300 to flight level 400. And then we've got some another IFR clouds, precipitation, mist, sigmet, or airmet as well. And now move on to the lowest freezing level. Most of the United States, about 15 to 17,000, except in the northern plains where it'll be closer to 13,000, and the southwest where it's really warm, upwards of 17,000. Move on to local conditions in Grand Forks. Here is the METAR data, VFR in the entire Minneapolis-St. Paul area except for a couple places, but in North Dakota, Minnesota, all VFR and calm winds. And here's the satellite for our area. Again, pretty clear. No clouds in the Grand Forks area and not many in eastern or western Minnesota and northern Minnesota as well. And again, we'll look at the radar for the area. Pretty much nothing going on here. And the single site radar, some very low reflectivity, but nothing in the way of precipitation. And here we'll have a look at the Grand Forks METAR blown up. And very nice flying conditions, calm winds, 10 miles visibility, and a few clouds at 8, 13, and 19,000. And we'll move on to some pilot reports. There are no pilot reports within 300 miles of Grand Forks, but here are some pilot reports for the whole MSB area. We've got some turbulence reports down in central Illinois. And here's some icing reports. Nothing. We've got a severe report in, it looks like, Wyoming. And some weather and sky conditions. One polar report in Wisconsin and one in Missouri. And move on to the national forecast. Here's the surface analysis chart valid at 1200 UTC. Slight chance of precipitation in that midwestern area down to the south, where there's a higher chance of precipitation in Mississippi and Alabama along the Gulf. And it looks like we've got a low pressure system moving through the Midwest as well. And we have the prog charts, the level significant prog charts. And nothing in the way of ceiling, MVFR, IFR in Grand Forks. There's the area of IFR in off the west coast, which you would expect with the fog, and some regions of MVFR scattered around the United States as well. Now move on to the high level prog chart, where we saw the chance of precipitation. There's some isolated embedded cumulonimbus from the surface to 50,000 in the Midwest. And of course, we've got the jet streams up north and just occasional thunderstorms, nothing too crazy around the United States. Here's the day 2 categorical outlook for convective weather. Slight chance of severe storms in Nebraska, marginal chance in most of the Midwest, and just general thunderstorms for most of the rest of the country, including Grand Forks. The day 3 categorical outlook, again, marginal chance in Iowa and parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Minnesota, and just general storms for Grand Forks. And here's forecasted GRMITs. Moderate turbulence from flight level 280 to flight level 430 in the northern plains, and just scattered other air emits scattered all over. An IFR off the west coast, clouds, precipitation, mist scattered in there, and it looks like freezing level from 0 to 1,600, pretty much south of the Midwest. And move on to the local forecast for Grand Forks. Here are the TAFs that are valid at 1200 Zulu on July 18th. Again, all VFR except for some MVFR down, which does not concern us in Nebraska, but all VFR in Grand Forks and Minnesota. Here are winds aloft for Grand Forks at 6,000. Looks like we'll be going with, let's go back. Winds 210 at 14, nothing too crazy, and 15 degrees Celsius. And we have the aviation forecast discussion. And just as we saw, pretty much VFR, not anticipating any issues for the TAFs for the next 24 hours. And here's the aviation surface forecast. Again, where we've seen these thunderstorms in the Great Plains that are possible, but nothing much in North Dakota, Minnesota, but just the scattered and numerous thunderstorms in the Midwest moving down to the south. And that'll do it for this briefing.